speakers as well? Yes, lovely, thank you. Good to hear that there are some World of Warcraft fans out there. I'm a gamer myself. But today we're not going to talk about World of Warcraft, unfortunately. We're going to talk about trust in Web3 in all of its messy forms, from design signals to risk management and gut-level caution. This isn't a rule book or a checklist, so you don't have to tick through all of the boxes. Think about it more like a field guide that is imperfect, iterative, but full of lessons from the UX research. So I am Sasha Tanase. I am a designer and a researcher. I've been in Web3 since 2018, and currently I am with Thesis, the studio behind Acre, TBTC, Threshold Network, and currently trying to make Bitcoin supernormal through Mezzo. And here, this is real footage of me channeling the user's voice, because user research is sorcery and black magic, right? So why trust matters? Oxford defines trust as a firm belief in the reliability of truth or ability of someone or something. But in Web3, that someone or something is often a protocol, a smart contract, an anonymous team, a UI that could move your Bitcoin on another chain. And this isn't about UI patterns, design patterns, it's about fear. Fear of loss, fear of scams, fear of never getting your funds back, and you, the builder, the designer, the researcher, the founder, you are at the other end of that trust cliff. So you don't have to trust me and take my word. I didn't invent the story, I have uncovered it. So for the past 4 years, me and my team have been sitting face to face, screen to screen with 150 people, DeFi buffs, crypto bros, whatever you want to call them, newbies, pros, founders, everyone. And it wasn't about TVL, it wasn't about APY, it wasn't about decentralization, it was about trust. Over and over and over again. Trust earned, broken, rebuilt, and doubted. So you can mine Bitcoin, you can stake ETH, but trust has to be earned. Trust is the hardest earned currency in Web3. So yes, Web3 is trustless by architecture, but it still depends on trust by experience. With Bitcoin and Ether, I'm thinking multiple times before doing anything with it. And Bitcoin and Ethereum users have an emotional relationship with their assets. Losing Bitcoin is a significant fear. Trust is deeply personal, and for them, you have to understand that Bitcoin and Ether is just like their pension fund. They're safe bet against the world. And that's why they are the trust final boss. So let's talk about visual and UX trust signals. If it was built hasty and it looks bad, I won't feel comfortable to put my money in it. It's definitely a scam. Now, this is both hilarious and completely serious. So, first impressions matter. As a user, when I first land on a DeFi or a Web3 protocol's website, I want to quickly get a sense of whether it looks legit, so I can avoid wasting time or exposing myself to a scam. And when someone says that, what they actually say is, I don't know what your protocol does, but I've seen enough rugs not to be scammed again. And that's the thing, we taught our users in Web3 to trust their gut, and users make snap decisions based on design polish and visual clarity before learning of the mechanism underneath. So in order to tackle this, prioritize clean, calm, and consistent visuals, treat visual polish as a core trust signal, not a nice to have. Avoid dark patterns like oversized API banners or meme token language, and use ample white space, minimal copy, and frictionless micro interactions. So here are some very good examples of good clean design and prioritization of clarity over complexity done by Zapper and LlamaSwap. And let's start talking about trust to transparency and verifiability. Proof of reserves. Having on-chain verifiable proof of reserves, that would be one thing for me. This is convincing me. And I love this quote because it's so rational. It's actually the opposite of the earlier gut check. It's a user saying, I don't want hype, I want evidence. And real proof builds real confidence. So as a user, when I'm considering putting funds into a protocol, I want to see audits, proof of reserves, and real on-chain data so I can feel confident that my money isn't going to go poof. So, users don't want to believe you. They want to verify you. Audits, on-chain proofs, GitHub repos, and smart contract transparency are key. Missing links are red flags. So, add the view on Etherscan link or other block explorers. Add that link to the audit reports you paid so much. Add the real-time dashboard integrations. We have so many good protocols who do that. Contract transparency via GitHub or Explorer. And also, add your DAO treasury breakdowns. And here we have very good examples from Meso and Lido. They have their public audits and public on-chain metrics easily accessible. And also another good example from TBTC, their bridge has a live minting flow with verifiable checkpoints, so you can check whatever you want to do. So let's go to social proof and community endorsement, something that is super important in Web3. Most of the projects I use are recommended by someone I trust. How many of yourselves recognize into this quote? Me as well. So that's because Web3 doesn't have a onboarding. It actually has a whisper network who builds squad goals. And trust is actually social. And as a user, when I'm looking into a new crypto product, I want to hear about it from people I trust. So I can skip the sketchy stuff and go straight to what works. Users rely on social proximity, not just marketing. Most discover and adopt protocols through trusted recommendation from friends, influencers, or shared DAOs. There is no app store, no Trustpilot, just Telegram groups, Discord friends, Twitter followers. So, build for social referral pathways. Display TVL number of wallets and other adoption proofing steps. In Web3, TVL is basically social proofing. Make it easy to see who else uses the product. Use community-anchored language, not just corpo, and have conference presence, an evangelist, talk directly to the people. Make yourself known. And again, some very good examples as Web3 social proofing through TVL. We have Aave here with clear TVL and other accessible protocol history, and also TBTC. And we have here a very good example of staking reputation, the impeccable reputation of Sasal by promoting Celo. So, yeah. Let's talk about protocol team and reputation. Has there been an exploit? Has there been a hack? Is the team good? Did they had other successful products to prove they're trustworthy? What's their pedigree? These questions aren't optional. They're actually instinctual. So who's behind this? As a user, when I'm putting my Bitcoin or funds at risk, I want to know who's behind the protocol so I can trust that they're accountable before I commit any serious funds. So users evaluate teams and projects based on past performance, incident transparency, and recovery behavior. An anonymous or silent team signals risk. And unfortunately, anonymity for users is actually a red flag unless you have already earned their trust in time. So highlight team experience, track record, and show response to past issues, use public change logs, transparency reports, and postmortems, I need to say again, postmortems, and avoid hiding behind vague or overly anonymous branding. Showcase your investors or other teams who have associated with you, and display protocols that are integrated with you, gaining validation and trust by association. And these are some examples from Thesis and Threshold Network. They are showcasing everyone from their team, and you can check all their GitHub repos, I don't know, whatever other links they are feeling comfortable to share with the world. So let's talk about emotional trust behavior. This is a pattern that I have only found in Web3 so far. And it's like this. I usually start with a small amount so that I can see how things work out. If anything goes wrong, I do not lose a lot. So start small, then scale. As a user, when I try a protocol for the first time, I want to use a small amount of funds so I can test the waters without risking much. And users don't call this a test transaction. They call it more like, let's see how it works. And users are actually intentionally limiting exposure during first use, sending small test transactions to probe safety. And this isn't fear, it's strategy. So help them by supporting low stakes testing paths, allow them to access testnet easily, give them simulations, sandboxes, make testnet token tabs easily accessible, surface confirmation and recap screens before commit, provide contextual reassurance, display what are the steps and numbers of transactions before they pull the trigger, allow low risk onboarding experiences, and show clear boundaries between risk levels. And here's a good example from Meso. They are making testnet very accessible and have different testnet token tabs. Also here, an example on how to provide an easy way out and providing contextual reassurance done by TBTC. And let's go and start talking about risk perception and fear. Bridging experience is usually scary. You have to sit in front of the computer and pray that nothing wrong will happen to your funds. Not clunky, not experimental, scary. So, transparency beats hype. And as a user, when I'm using a bridge or staking my Bitcoin, I want to be warned about risks and technical steps so I don't lose funds due to unclear flows or unexpected outcomes. And ambiguity breeds fear. Bridges, swaps, and L2s introduce high perceived risk. If something feels unclear or untrackable, users assume it's unsafe, even if it's technically secure. So this is the level of emotional gravity we're dealing with. These aren't UX complaints, these are trauma responses. So how do we counter that? Well, it's very useful if we show transaction status clearly with live feedback. We clarify what chain, what contract, what step. We avoid loading states or ambiguous outcomes. We set clear expectations and give truthful time estimates. I know some of the bridges are unhappy about it, but we have to say it's 8 hours. Be upfront about the risks and explain reward mechanisms clearly, and also avoid over-promising copies, anything that sounds too good to be true. So here's a lengthy but useful, clear transaction receipt from Meso Borrow. We also have another example on upfrontness on risks, also from Meso Borrow. And let's move to learning, research, and education. I read everything before doing anything. Even if it will take me hours, I like to do my due diligence. this quote is surprisingly common in Web3. So make it understandable. As a user, when I'm deciding whether to use a new protocol, I want to read the documentation that makes sense, and I want it be written in plain language, so I don't feel like I need to be a dev to understand it. I want help and tooltips. So give this armor to your user. Users conduct deep research before committing assets, and poor documentation, complex jargon, or missing context actively repel trust. Good content is not just design, it's also UX writing. So don't make them feel dumb because you're failing, just because you're doing a very poor job at explaining what you're doing. Respect their curiosity. Offer layered educational content, use in-context tooltips, models, and links inside the UI. Write for real humans, not only Solidity devs. Embed product education within the UI, and build onboarding with step-by-step confidence boosts, and use progressive disclosure, and hold your user's hand. You won't regret it. And these are two good examples of lowering the cognitive load and making things very accessible in terms of educational materials from Zerion and Pawn Finance. And also, Meso users documentation is doing a really good job at making and writing documentation in a very super normal way. So, let's talk about trust as a journey. Trust is not a single moment. It's an emotional arc. It's from landing to your website, to that tiny test transaction, the shrug, to advocacy. Trust builds quietly and breaks loudly. Your product lives or dies in these 5 moments. So you have to remember there is this discovery. Is this real or is it a scam? Research, can I verify this myself and understand it? First use, let's test with maybe $1, maybe 10 USDC, whatever. Continued use, okay, is this thing actually stable? And then advocacy, should I share this with my friends? So in Web3, everything we build exists in this tension between risk and reward. We say decentralized, but we ask our users to trust our smart contracts. And that's fine if we design with empathy, not just with cleverness. Trust isn't built through branding, but through behavior. It's built through the way your dApp handles errors, the way your copy explains what's happening, in whether or not someone feels safe to hand you their Bitcoin. And don't just build for functionality. Build for fear, for doubt, for caution, for people who've lost money and are trying not to lose it again. In Web3, trust isn't a side quest. It's the actual product. Thank you. Oh, by the way, if you scan this QR code, you will get the slides deck, so you don't have to take photos. Thank you. I think we have 1 minute of questions. I can take one question. No questions. I love that. It means I've done an excellent job. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.